if you're not in a startup and you don't know where your boxes are and what your boxes actually are, so like in a hospital or something, so yes, there's this DNS server, we have no idea where it is, and we have no idea what hardware or software is there running on. You need some software to find those beasts, those boxes. To show you how you can do that, we have on stage the wonderful, let me read that up, Paula de la Hoz Garrido. Please, a very warm welcome.
Thank you. Well, thank you for being in this presentation. It's my first presentation in English, not my mother tongue. I'm from Spain. I really want to introduce myself before going further in this presentation. I'm currently studying the last year of computer engineering. I've also course investigative journalism online in Columbia University in New York. But I'm also working as a security auditor. I've worked for a couple of companies already, and I'm looking for a job right now. I was doing some tests for companies before coming here. But my main investigations are about internet censorship and privacy awareness. For that, I have a group in Spain called Interferencias. Our icon is this one. We are organizing speeches back there in Spain, and we also do events and collaborate with educators in order to prevent about security, privacy, and internet censorship in general. But now, today, we're going to speak about network monitoring. So this is the outline. First, we are going to explain why open source, because we are going to explain about open source tools. We are also going to explain a few tools for basic network monitoring, and also about hardware we can use for network monitoring. I'm going to explain a little bit about network virtualization, both with virtual machines and containers using Docker. And finally, I'm going to end explaining about collaborative hacking and why it is important to keep community in the hacking culture. So first, why keeping open? Why keeping the freedom of the software and hardware in security, and moreover in monitoring, network monitoring? First of all, collaboration creates better projects. So if many people are watching for the same project, probably more issues are coming out, and we are creating faster and more efficient projects. We all know that obfuscation of the software is not real security. So it's better to create open projects than obfuscated projects. Also, for in general, a better society, a better world with when everyone is has a part of responsibility, and everyone is involved in technology, and moreover involved in security of the information. So we are going to speak more about collaboration and community in the last part. Now we are going to head into the technical part. Network monitoring. So I don't know if can be seen wrong. Okay. So first of all, depending on what are going to the information that we are going to look at, we are going to use different tools. So if we are going for the context, either if it's partial context or complete context, we will be using general tools such as Wireshark or EtherCap that probably is familiar to you. This basically is all the information that we can take from a network monitoring. So if we want more specific data, for example, session data is the communication between two networks, devices in the network. For this, we could use Argus or RAW. which is a tool that takes, for example, logs or or more specific data about these devices. Transaction data focuses on understanding the requests and replies, is similar to session data. And statistical data is various of these aspects, but in statistics, metadata, it's data of data, and we extract key elements and leverage some external tools to understand them. This is where the hackers act the most because of OSINT, maybe is also familiar to you. So for now we have Argus, Wireshark, Ethercap, Bro, and Bro in fact is based on TCP dump, which is command line terminal 2. But then again, we are only speaking about software here, but we can also rely on hardware. How so? Well, we can use a tap. It's just an element that we connect in the network physically, so we can port mirroring the network and get data from it. We can use a Raspberry Pi station. So for this, we can just create the scripts in a tiny Raspberry Pi and connect it to any network and also extract data from it. We have a Wi-Fi pineapple, which is a device that can be act as a trap, just like a honeypot. So it's offering many Wi-Fis, which are not real Wi-Fis in a public place. So when people connect to this pineapple Wi-Fi, you can extract information from those devices. So those are some basic hardware that can be either be bought on the internet, or you can build it yourself using Arduino, Raspberry Pi, and other open hardware. But if we want to go more into networking, we have two options. Both studying or learning about real networking, like switches, that kind of things, or going into virtualization. And both have open source tools. So in this case of switches, I'm going to talk about disaggregated hardware here. So in this case, a disaggregated network device allows you to install your choice of operating system. Because when we think about switches and networking, we probably think about Cisco, for example, which is actually just a private open operating system for switches. But we have open options. For example, the Open Computer Project, which is hosted by Facebook. I don't like that point, but it's okay. And also Telecom Infra Project, which is pretty similar to Open Computer Project, as is an open source standards for telecommunication and service provided companies. So in these cases, for example, we have some open switches such as EdgeCore, Mellanox, Alpha Networks, Inventic, and other ones. So yes, that is a sketch of what I have just explained. So basically every switch is built the same. So we have chassis, power supplies, fans, control fans, CPU, and switch mainboards. So in this case, we have very many types of switches. We have bare metal switches that doesn't have any network operating system, white box switches that it's basically the same, but you can ask the manufacturer to label it, and it's also usually open hardware. And finally, we have bright box switches that has a hardware bundled with a network operating system. So actually we have a lot of options to choose between open hardware switches and networking. Understanding network operating system or moreover open network operating systems could allow us finding vulnerabilities in a close future. But now we are not just staying in the hardware, because currently there are a lot of orchestration for network in the cloud. So we are going to talk also about virtualization. When we talk about virtualization in networking, we can think of two options: virtual machines or containers. So we should take care of the difference between these two options. Virtual machines, the running engine is hypervisor, and in containers is the container engine itself. In virtualization, in virtual machines, each virtual machine has its own operating systems and kernel. And in a container, all containers use the host machine's operating system and kernel. In a virtual machine, host machine needs to run multiple fault operating systems. On the contrary, containers, host machines run multiple containers using common kernel and groups of common libraries. Finally, the guests in a virtual machine could use any operating system, and in containers only the same as the host kernel. So, for example, we can still run Ubuntu container on a CentOS host, but we should take care of this. In this point, we could use many open tools as well for monitoring these virtual machines or these containers, in this case using Docker containers, and also to perform attacks or to prevent those attacks. For example, we could use Falco, which is an open source tool for monitoring behavior in Docker containers. For example, in here, I'm deploying a container that already has Falco running. So we are playing around in the container and seeing the log after that Falco throws. And in the same example, we are doing the same, but we are trying to write a known data directory, so an alert is thrown. So this, for example, is a very useful tool either for DevOps or for security specialists. Also, other tools for attacking or defending a containers could be, for example, scanning vulnerabilities using Core or Sclare. And when we find a vulnerability in a container, we can exploit it using Metasploit, for example. We can use Secom for setting rules. For the ones who doesn't know, Secom is a command line tool in Linux that allows us to perform syscall managing for kernels. So it could be used for containers. We only have to take care if we are using, for example, Alpine or Ubuntu servers, because it's different. The syscalls are different for each kernel. But apart from that, it's a pretty good tool for this. We can also use HashiCorp for storing secrets, such as password or other stuff that could be dangerous to be in a container. So for now, we have seen also CoreOS, Secom, HashiCorp, Falco. We can also use even Python scripts. I haven't said before, but for example, we can use Escapee library in Python. So there are tons of open source tools that we can use for any kind of monitoring, either virtual, hardware, or just in a normal pod mirroring. So finally, now we have seen that there's a lot of open auctions, and this is just because there's a community behind them. So hackers are not meant to be lone wolves. Sometimes Hollywood has tried to convince us that hackers are weird people wearing black that are keeping themselves alone and work that way. And that's not the real cases. All of these tools work thanks to a community and thanks because that there's a lot of people working on them together. So this is not about you or about me, it's about the community. Hacker, the name hacker was firstly created for those who learn, experiments, and create together tech. So now that we are the ones who want to create a secure internet, we should keep this in mind so we can work better. These pictures are from this group I told you about, Interferencias, but there's also groups like Hey Kid, that it's a university club where university students teach other university students about security. For example, the graffiti you've seen there, it's a graffiti that was made in Turkey because they began to spray paintings of the IPS of Google DNS server in public places to tip civilians off on circumventing ban because they have some problem with censorship there. So working in a community doesn't just mean to be technical or to be an engineer, but to be care about the community and the open source. So that should be it.
Now you surprised me. I thought you would go longer. Thank you. Questions? Come on. It's not that late.
I think you will guess the question. Why did you not try Suricata?
Can you repeat, please?
Did you try Suricata?
I have used once, but I don't know it's pretty good, so that's why I didn't add it to the presentation.
Hey, thanks for your presentation. Have you heard of or used Tracker Jacker? I've heard it's the new hotness with open source monitoring for Wi-Fi.
I haven't heard of it, but I could take a look.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. Have you done any research into their enhanced or extended Berkeley packet filter on Linux?
Could you repeat, please? I just...
The enhanced or extended Berkeley packet filter, BPF, often, I think you can, there's a seccomp policy you can use to attach it to the, it's a kernel module or a kernel call. I'm not very familiar. I was curious if you had looked into it, into its usefulness.
The second has default security rule set up, but I don't know if you are asking about that, but you can create your own rules, or I just don't care what you are talking about, sorry.
Okay, no.
Don't put your hand up behind me. That's I can't see them.
On Twitter, I've posted a thread under the hashtag of DeepSec where I put all those, the same tools I've spoke about in the presentation, links, because I've seen some people taking pictures. So.
Yeah, so, but you're here tomorrow as well, right?
I'm leaving tomorrow morning.
Oh, so we have to grab you. So if someone has another tip for you on tools you want to check out, grab her right now after the talk. Are there any further questions? If not, I would ask for a very big applause again for a wonderful speaker. Thank you very much.